Oh, I missed that song. I missed the countdown song. Brandon, hi, how are you?
I'm so good, Chloe. It's so good to see you again.
Oh my gosh. It has been so long since I have seen you on this show. Let's see, back 3 weeks ago with Jay. Shout out to Jay. Definitely watch that previous episode if you hadn't. Um, Hello, everyone. Welcome to 8 Bits. We're back. The gang is
Woo!
back.
Yeah.
Shout out to PJ for stepping in for me when I was out a couple weeks ago, and we've been offline, letting things. The election happened.
That's right.
We've now returned, and Brandon, how are you doing? What's been going on in your
uh,
world?
oh, doing really well. I won't I won't give it away just yet, but I'm super excited for the guest we have today because what's been going on in my world is been working feverishly on my Git Trends app.
Ooh,
So
yes,
check it
official
out.
app of the show.
Yep, gittrends.com, GITTRENDS.com. But yeah, we've been working on version 2,
Ooh.
and it just so happens to be that our guest today is the guy who's helping me do it.
Dun,
And
dun, dun,
so
dun.
been putting tons of work into it, and it's almost there. We have like one more page in the app to do, and then version 2.0, hot
Wow.
off the presses, will be coming soon to an app store near you. And I I'm just so excited. There's so many new features, and I think the best part about this is these are all features that the community asked for because
Yeah.
yeah, because Git Trends it's totally open source. So when you go to gittrends.com, it actually takes you to the GitHub page, and anybody can open up a feature request there, or hopefully there's no bugs. We can report a bug there, and so yeah, everything we've been working on is all feature requests from the community, from our fellow users, and so I just yeah can't wait to push it out to the world and give give the people what they want. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I am super excited. Speaking of V2s of things, PJ, our special guest on the show often, PJ and I added some special features to Shania Bot. So our V2 of
That's
Shania Bot
right.
will be coming out soon. You can, of course, follow Shania Bot at bot_Shania on Twitter. So we built this bot for those, maybe for some new people. We've got 16 people watching. Excited. Watching us
That's
live.
right.
For anybody who's not familiar with Shania Bot, myself and PJ Metz built this Twitter bot that every morning at 9 a.m. tweets "Let's Go Girls," which famously is a lyric from a Shania Twain song, to motivate you to start your day. We built this completely with Logic apps with no code, but then we made our V2 where we've added all these extra special features. It's been really, really fun. This is PJ's first time
Ooh.
playing with an API. So we're using Azure to host it, and pretty soon you will be able to tweet Shania and when you use any sort of word that's like, "Hey Shania, does this impress you? Hey, are you impressed by this?" She'll respond, "That don't impress me much." Like a very well-known song. So keep an eye out for that. And
I
yeah, I'm
love it.
also excited that we're streaming to my Twitch today because
That's right.
I'm going to start twitching, as the kids say. I don't know what they say.
Is that what it's called?
I
Are
don't
you,
think
are you
so.
twitching?
I think they're
That
probably
doesn't seem right.
streaming. But I'm
I
really,
think it's
really
is it fleeting? Is it called
no,
fleeting?
I don't think that's what kids are doing on Twitter. That's something else. Um, but I'm going to be streaming a bunch of really fun tech content with the students that I work with Bit Project this week. So I've been working with these students that are so, oh my gosh, Brandon, these kids, I'm not even going to say kids because they're like mini CEOs in the making, are going to put us out of jobs or they're going to be our bosses someday. They're building these awesome, awesome apps with Azure Functions and they're presenting them to the world this week. So definitely check out my Twitch for that. I'm also going to be crafting
Cool.
weird puppets and stuff. So that's what's been going on in my world. But I think
That's right.
it's time to bring in our guest. What do you think?
Ooh. Yeah, let's do it. So yeah, like I said, I am so excited to have him on. I've known Luis for years, and we've been working really closely together for Oh gosh, probably the last 8 or 9 months on our Git Trends app. And so Luis has taken the idea that I had for the app, and he's the one that created this amazing UI. We actually live stream the work we do on the app together every Wednesday and every Friday on the .NET Dominicana Twitch channel. But without further ado, let's bring him on. Let's welcome Luis Pujols. Hey, Luis.
Welcome.
Hi, Brandon. Hi, Chloe. Such a long time without seeing you guys. I'm super excited to be here. I love.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I love what Chloe was saying about her recent projects with her students in the Twitch. I'll make sure to follow that, and I'm excited to see what they're working on those bots. It sounds really
there's
interesting.
some really interesting problems being solved by students that I've never thought of because school was so different for me. We didn't really use the internet when I was in high school. Well, we did, but
Back
we were
in my
submitting
day.
our homework through the internet, I should say. And one of the students has built this really interesting project that converts images to PDFs, because when you need to submit your homework, if you write it by hand, you have to take a picture, and the only format that whatever software is accepting this is only in PDF. So there's these very practical applications for problems that I wouldn't think exist, but it's true. In the age of digital schooling and working, there's all these really cool, interesting projects to be built. So I'm excited to show them off to the world.
Oh yeah, it's just such smart people. Like when I think back to, what was I doing in high school and college? Like, I mean, well, we'd have to get into exactly what I was doing. Had a lot of fun in high school and college, but yeah, I was not changing the world. And I feel like that's already the focus of these students is like, let's make projects that makes the world a better place. And couldn't be more proud of them and can't wait to see what they've done.
Yeah. Last time we had, so this is my second time working with Bit Project, and the first time, one of the students who presented did it was an in-tool or in-browser tool that would help determine if a article was leaning politically left or right. So it was built before the election, and I highly recommend tuning in for these presentations live, because this student even wore a costume. He had a tinfoil hat for his presentation. So it's a spectacle. It's entertainment. I'll be hosting it. It'll be a grand old time.
Love it.
All righty. Well, for all the people who are home, who are maybe like wondering, so I know how the two of you obviously are working on the unofficial official app of the show, Git Trends. But tell us a little bit, Lewis, how you've sort of made your way into the Microsoft world. How did you come in contact with Brandon? What was your path to? How did you get to this show with us talking about crazy things in 2020?
Yeah. So who's Luis Pujols, right? I'm basically a software engineer, originally from the Dominican Republic. I was born here in Newark, New Jersey, but I moved when I was like 6 years old to the R, and I was raised there with my family. I studied software engineering in Instituto Tecnológico de Santo Domingo, and I was just really curious at a young age about technology, and was always involved with like computers and uh, was always involved with computers and being around the tech world. But I never in a million years, when I was in my high school, would have thought that I was gonna end up working as a software engineer, right? And being in the tech world. So eventually, and when I got to high school, I found out I decided I was gonna study software engineering. There's a really good story behind that. But before we get to that, I just wanted to give you a brief introduction of how I got into the world. Right? So I started studying software engineer in the R. I became really active with the community, and that's how I got to know about Brandon, right? Because I would share the events, I would try and connect with the Xamarin community, and Brandon is really active. He has a ton of blog posts. At the moment, I'm working as a senior Xamarin mobile developer for Fortune 500 company here called Ryder, and I was always really involved with the Xamarin community. So eventually I got to be Brandon, and we just connected right away. And he presented me his project, Get Trends. I was one of the first beta testers. I'm proud of that. Okay, okay.
That's right.
And
Back in the day.
yeah, once I saw it, I immediately noticed it was open source, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
how could I contribute to this project, right? Because I noticed Brandon wanted to have this go a step further, and he was calling the community to help him out. So one of the areas I immediately noticed was that we could improve the UI UX of the app, right? Yeah.
being very nice about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The UI I made looked really bad. And yeah, Luis is like, I could do a lot better. And he did. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it was a really interesting project for me. I have a ton of fun working on it with Brando, because we knew we wanted to make the UI better, but we knew none of us are designers, right? So we were like, okay, we're just developers, but we know like what is the level of quality we want to have in the UI. We want it to look really modern, and that at a glance, if the user opens the app, he can get all the information he needs and can keep track of its repos, right?
Yeah.
So we literally had a ton of challenges at first. I'm not gonna lie. But a lot of good things came out of that, because we got to learn about material design. We got to learn about colors and how design fits into the whole process of developing a product, right? And how your users actually, even like you as a developer, you think, okay, I have to do this couple of pages, and I'm just gonna put the data here, and as long as the data comes up, everybody's gonna get it, right? But we discovered that no, actually it's not like that. As soon as we changed the UI and we started implementing all these best practices that we found, we saw an immediate increase in the user base for Git Trends. We reached
That's great.
yeah, we reached like top 50, I think, in the first week of the update.
That's right.
Brandon?
Yeah. I mean, technically, so yes, but we were in the top. Actually, I think it hit like top 30. I think we reached 36 in the developer tools category on the iOS App Store. That was really cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
And also want to plug. This is a blog post that Luis put together about essentially how he created it. I went ahead and shortened the link, but it's this beautiful. What is the name of that website you use for it?
It's Behance. It's a website.
Behance. Yeah.
It's the website that a lot of designers use to post their work and their portfolios, and it's like basically like a marketplace and a social media for designers to be creative, right, and share their work there. So
I feel like there's a huge opportunity for like a meme account or like a Tumblr or something that's like websites or apps by engineers who think they're designers, because I think that's like a conversation I have so much with my designer friends, where they're like, I work with all these engineers and they think they can design. And it's such a like, and it's true. Like some of us do have an eye for design, but it's like, okay, yeah, we should leave this to the professionals sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's amazing what like a simple change of like color or even like rounding a button or like moving it to a different place can do for user engagement. It's night and day.
Yeah, definitely. And we try always to, in our live streams that we do on Wednesday and Fridays, we always try to keep it like real with our attendees. And in terms of that, we know we are developers and we're trying to like implement all the designs and that they probably are not going to be 100% right, because we're just trying new stuff, right? But that's a good part of open source. We have everything published in our repo, and we have even the Adobe XD project. So we're always open to, if a designer is out there or someone that has more knowledge in design about us and wants to add a change, to come up even in the stream and like, hey, I want to be in next stream and let's try and redo this page, and they can give us tips, right? Yeah.
I love it. It's like live consulting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
So,
think
oh no, go ahead, Brandon.
I said, yeah, just to round it off. I think the thing I love the most about Luis's take on how to create these designs is he's essentially boiled everything down to structured rules, and that's what I love about this Behance article that we have scrolling on the ticker at the bottom. Is that somebody like me who, yeah, I'm an engineer, I'm very analytical, I can make the app functional, but how do I make it look good? That like good is such a vague abstract term, but what Luis has done is talked about like how do you do shadows? How do you think about it in terms of elevation? How do you do colors? How do you do colors
Yeah.
on light themes and dark themes? And it's all just like very strategic, very surgical, and it really works well in my brain that just wants like just I'm just like tell me what to do, and I'm gonna do it.
And mobile is
Yeah.
such a like ever-changing space for that, I feel. Like I feel like Android design is so different than iPhone design, which is so different from like now we have two screens. Oh my gosh, like throwing a whole
Dual
other
screens.
level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main hurdle we face as developers, and it's that we already have so much to learn in the backend side and making the apps functional. And then when we face the that now we have to do the design, and we start hearing about, oh, but there's actually something called color theory, that you should there's
Yeah.
colors that work for some certain type of products, and others that work for another objective, right? And there's also like accessibility. You have to think about that the colors have to have enough contrast between them, and you're just like, okay, and this is just colors, and I have already like an hour reading stuff, so how am I gonna do this? So that's why we try to, like, as Brandon say, make it as simple as possible for developers to consume this design best practices, and also put it in a way that they are thinking about how they're gonna implement it in the product while you are designing, right? Because maybe in our case we're using Xamarin Forms, and we know what we have available as developers to create our UI UX. So while we're doing the design, we say, okay, maybe I want this button to be a circle or like a really complex figure, right? And but since we know what we have available out of the box, we say, okay, no, instead of making it like a circle with a triangle in the middle, let me just make it a circle and with this gradient, and I can use this component that I have available. And that way, when we go to implement the design, it goes way more quickly, and we already have our code ready to receive that what we were designing, right?
Yeah, huge benefit there because, well, I can only speak for the mobile world, but in the mobile world, there's always that battle between developers and designers because designers can create this awesome UI, but then it's the developer that has to implement it. And sometimes it's just not possible with the tools you have. And so then what do? Well, now you have to go back to the drawing board or create a compromise. And sometimes the designer wins and sometimes the developer wins. But yeah, that's what I love about when Luis and I are doing these UI design sessions. We know the tool set we have, so we can always think about it in a sense like that. Like we were just talking last week on the stream about adding in some animations. So we're adding in the ability to favorite or one of your GitHub repos. If you favorite it, it'll always turn up at the top of the list. And we're like, what if we animated the favorite button? So like it kind of does like a little bounce or a little splash.
I'm only mildly disappointed that it's not like a GIF of Brandon like doing a cartwheel or like his dog. Like,
Yeah.
like I feel like all of my first apps, when I was like, wait a second, you mean I can just put a GIF here that's a fake loading bar? Like that
Yeah.
blew my
The
mind.
fake loading bar.
Like I think it was during Hackbright, one of my classmates ended up doing that where she's like, it takes a couple seconds for this to load, so I have it go to this page and it shows this, and I was like, how did you build that? She's like, oh, it's just a GIF. And I was like, so you're saying I could just put a GIF of a loading bar?
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, that's another thing that has been really good about us doing these sessions and this article, and is that a lot of designs we used to look like they were really advanced and like really polished. We would see them and we would be like, "Oh my god, how am I actually gonna implement that in a mobile app?" Right? So this has given us like a good practice on how to reuse what we have available, combine it, and get actually the design we want. So maybe we use, as you said, we have a loader that it's like a custom loader. Oh, we know now that we have a really good a nugget in C sharp, and we can create an Illustrator file. So we get the animation, we export that, and we just add it to the app, and it just works. And we, in our mind, we thought we were gonna have to make like the shape and code and like deal with the SVG, but no, it's you start to discover how it's way more, how your tool set is way more flexible, and how you can get more creative by just practicing doing UI and UX and trying to implement it and do it on your own, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this comment here from Surly Deb. She, first of all, gave a shout out to my shirt, which says, "To whoever took my Microsoft Word, I will find you. You have my word." Microsoft Office, I should say.
Yeah, it's an
Very
awesome
bad
shirt.
pun. But I love this. Surly Deb said, "I changed the weight cursor on Windows 2000, I think it was, on a colleague's PC to a pair of googly eyes that spun around instead of the hourglass. I wish I could do this now." And himself silly every time he saw it. Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And you're
I
giving me
love it.
ideas. It reminds me of my MySpace with the like dragging the cursor around and
Oh
adding different
yeah.
HTML.
The MySpace era when you had like all the glitters in your profile page and you thought like you were the best. By
We
that time,
peaked.
I had no idea of tech. I thought I was like the best engineer because I would
You
have like,
were.
yeah, I would have my mouse moving around, my
I
light
feel
player.
like aesthetic of like computing for me personally, like born too late. Like I got to live in it, but I wish that I had like a bank account. Like, cause right now I would have all of those big iMacs, like the clear candy apple case ones. And
Yeah.
but I just tweeted this morning. Did either of you have the little digital planners? They were like these little, they were just like contact books, and they had like,
Oh,
they looked like a
yeah.
calculator. So I tweeted out these pictures this morning of these early ones that they had specifically for girls. I'm right now collecting a lot of toys, like early childhood toys that were geared towards girls, because there aren't a lot of computer themed toys for girls from like the 90s. And there is a Clueless digital planner that you can buy that is pretty incredible, where you can put in your contacts, your cool activities, your jams, anything you want.
Wow.
And I think I'm going to be starting to share some more of these toys on the show, so stay tuned, y'all. But speaking of MySpace,
Nice.
we were chatting a little bit about how you had mentioned before that you never pictured yourself in this world doing this kind of stuff. And I want to go back to that because same. And I would love to know what your journey was from. I mean, I think we all still experience imposter syndrome to this day, but how did you get from that mindset of like, that's not who I am, to working on what you do now?
Yeah. So it's actually a really, I would say, interesting story because how I started, and later I connected it once I reflected, and now that I'm working in the field, I can go back to that moment and I said, oh, that's actually the moment in which I got in touch with tech and got me hooked, but I did not realize it. So, as I told you before, I started working at a really young age because my family has a characteristic that we have always had a family run business, which is uh, my dad is a cabinet maker. So he used to have a workshop to sell furniture to stores in Dominican Republic. So since like 14, 15, he will allow me to go to the workshop and learn how to do the craft, like how to create cabinets, how to create kitchens, how to create sofas. So I really got like into that, and I really enjoy making stuff with my hands and just looking at his drawings, how he would like think about a space. and completely transform it into something useful for your house. And that just got me hooked, right? But something happened while I was like in seventh grade, and it was that we got a financial crisis in DR that forces forced my family to migrate back to the United States, right? So I moved in seventh grade, and once I got to the school, to my new school here, uh, there's something peculiar in DR, and is that is the education system is different than here in school, because here in school I noticed that you have four main subjects, right? And then you have two electives, and that's what you take every day. And I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome, because in DR I actually had like so many subjects. So every day I had different subjects. I had like 10 subjects. So I only had informatics in DR once a week, and it was like Friday. And in that time, what they put us to do was like play Mario. Like we had Mario in a floppy disk, and we would just like hook up in the computer, play Mario, or use Paint. And so it was like the playtime, right? So when I got here and I saw that I could have, as an elective, there was a subject called informatics and business. And I was like, wait, so if this is informatic, I'm gonna get to play every day. That sounds like a deal to me, right? So I put it in. And once I signed up and I actually go to the class, I really enjoyed the class because the professor was an awesome professor. Uh, Once we got there, the whole purpose of the class was taking technology, but that time it was not that developed. Like we didn't have all this cool and awesome technologies we have now. But basically, the websites in that time was just pure HTML, JavaScript, right? So what he had us do was think about a business idea, and as kids, right? Like selling cookies or something like that. Think about a business idea, and he showed us how to create a simple HTML website, and we had to like present our business through that website. So it was really interesting because another requirement he has for us is that the websites we had to learn how to do the HTML in Notepad, and we had to know everything by memory, like all the tags and like the image, how the
By
properties
memory.
work. Yeah.
I couldn't do
By
that
memory.
today.
I'm having flashbacks to my Google interview, like doing all of my coding in a Google Doc. Ooh.
Yeah.
Doing it by memory.
chills.
Do you have them still memorized today?
Yeah. Like
It's like the alphabet.
Yeah, because I got hooked right away. As soon as I saw, he showed me like I put the HTML tag, I put the body, and then I put like I just write something, and then he ran it on the browser, and it was like a page. It only said hello, but I was like, hey, I created a page that say hello, so I got hooked. And then I started learning more and more. And when I felt like I was like, oh my god, I'm an expert coder now, right? Is when I learned about the tag, the marquee tag in HTML. That you have the little text like we have right now on the bottom running across the screen. I was like, oh my god, my site is alive now. I'm the best engineer there is.
Once I learned about Strike, Marquee, and also, what was the other one? I feel like there were just some pivotal moments in MySpace and LiveJournal back end, which was technically front end, that made me go, I'm a hacker. Okay.
Yeah. So after that, it was 2007 while I was here, right? The crisis happened in DR. We came here. I studied that whole year. I learned that. I loved it. And then in 2008, when we were trying to get projects for my parents as well, doing wood, remodeling and construction with wood, then 2008 hit and we got another crisis. Which was the U.S. crisis, so we had to move back. Yeah, and so this is something also I reflected and I said, I actually would have not changed, even if it happened like this, because I know everybody goes through struggles in life, and those key moments actually serve me so well for my professional career now, because we struggle so much in that time, right? We were trying to get along, but we always, my parents, they're an inspiration to me because they always kept telling us, keep pushing harder, keep studying. Don't worry, everything is gonna be fine. So when we moved back to the art to try and get through, like find fix the situation, but living in DR now, uh, my dad completely shifted his focus, and now he was only working like in woodwork as well, but more in the more fine finishing area, right? And I got back to my school. And when I got back in eighth grade, I had a childhood friend that I grew up with him named Angel, which I teach him like the basics I learned about HTML and how to create a website, and he loved it. And after that, I kind of like completely forgot about it because we were kids, we were in eighth grade, and then I just started doing all my activities again, and I forgot about tech. But my friend, he got so hooked that since that moment on, until we graduated from high school, he kept learning on his own. And by the time we were about to graduate, he was already working in the software engineering industry. He was a web developer. He was really good at it. But
Wow. Just
yeah,
after high school. Woo.
after high school, he's for me, he's one of my role models and inspirations because he's always been really dedicated, and he just took that small piece of information I gave him and he made so much more out of it. So I always have looked up to him, and he actually helped me define what I was gonna become once I was about to graduate in senior year. Because in senior year, I don't know if this happened to you guys as well. When I was about to graduate, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do with my life, right? What am I gonna study? That's like the big question. And what I immediately had in my head was, I want to study something that sounds like amazing when you say it, right? Like being a doctor or a lawyer or maybe an architect. Because when you say that, like people are like, oh my god, he's an engineer. He's an engineer. He's an architect. So those were my options, and I was like collecting all of those career options, but I really was not into any of them really. And then when I asked my friend before graduation, I tell, hey Angel, what are you gonna study? And he's like, oh, I'm gonna be a software engineer. And what about you? I'm like, I've not decided. I'm gonna do this. And then he comes like, wait, you're not gonna do software engineering? And I'm like, what is it? What is software engineering? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, you showed me in seventh grade how to create HTML websites. If you don't know what software engineering is, go search it up. And as soon as I search it up, and I start investigating what software engineering engineers do, and what is like software and how system works, I completely got hooked again. I was like, oh my god, how could I forget about this little piece that brought me so much joy so long ago? And from that point on, I decided I was gonna be a software engineer. And it also helped that when I thought about being a doctor, I said, wait, if someone cuts themselves, I can't really deal with blood. I might call 911 to get some help, but I'm not gonna go and stitch it up or anything, you know. And then I wanted to be an architect. I said, yeah, but I'm not that good at drawing, and I like can dribble and stuff, but not to that level. And then lawyer, that's so many laws and so many books. I was not really attracted to it. And then I was like, okay, yeah, what I need to do is software engineering. And
I think it's really incredible how we kind of, I mean, I'm sure this conversation happens all the time, but we put on very young people like, hey, choose what you're going to do the rest of your life. Because when I was 18, I obviously made the choice to be an actress and to do musical theater, but I couldn't agree more. Like, I feel like if you had asked me when I was 18, do you want to be a software engineer? I would laugh in their face because I too did not know what that meant and was not exposed to it when I was younger. So I think it's so cool that you kind of like reminded yourself, right? Like you taught your friend this really cool, fun, interesting thing you were doing. And then they were like, hey, remember that you like this thing? I wish I had, you said their name was Angel. I wish I had an angel in my life.
Yeah.
Could have gotten to me sooner.
Yeah, and you're completely right. Like something I also learned was really valuable to me while going through this path, right? Because okay, I already decided kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a software engineering. I wanted to do software engineering, but there were two main problems in that statement for me at that time. I was about to start university, and I felt like I wasted some of my years in high school because there was a certain some certain type of subjects, you didn't had to like give your 100% to get like a passing grade. So I felt like I was kind of distracted in high school, and now that I wanted to be a good software engineer, because one of my inspiration, as I said, is my father. He's like a master in his field. He can literally look at space, draw something, and he will draw it like an architect will. Like he will put all the measurements. He will make that space come alive. And he has always like influenced me in that way. That if you're gonna do something, make sure you're gonna do whatever you feel like doing, but make it with your 100%. So I wanted to give my 100% in software engineering, and then my imposter syndrome that I didn't know what it was at that time kicked in. I was like, okay, I'm about to start university, but I feel I'm lacking calculus, I'm lacking physics, and all of these subjects that are really important for an engineer. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm going to one of the university I studied is like one of the top engineering universities in DR. So I was like, okay, I want to be a good software engineer. I want to change while working. I want to change people's life with the software I produce, and I want to do good work. So how can I even sit in a class with all of these genius students that for me at that time everybody that was in tech had to be a genius. They had to be like an angel brought from the heavens, and they were
Right.
like illuminated, right?
Yeah.
That was my perception of people that work with tech at that time. And I was like, I can't even sit in the class because I don't even know the calculus, right?
And it's such a
But
strange industry to be in personally, coming from a world where you can become an expert singer or an expert dancer, and you can pretty much like, you won't learn everything, but you can like get to a point of competency in, your art to feel that you're an expert. But I personally, I'm waiting. I mean, I meet so many smart people in my role here at Microsoft and over the last couple of years in my career, but I am always the same way. I'm constantly striving to be like, okay, one of these days, I'm going to feel like, all right, I know what I'm doing. And then you learn about a whole nother language or programming concept, or you start reading about quantum and you're like, oh no, I don't know anything.
Quantum computers are terrifying. Well, I'm not scared of them, but I recognize that once quantum computing becomes a thing, then everything I know, like all the software I've written the last 10 years, like just throw it out the window because computers don't work that way anymore. And like part of me is kind of like, well, maybe quantum computing will happen after I retire. But like it's already coming. I've heard, I forget which cloud, but there's quantum computers in the cloud now that you can rent. And I'm sure it's not cheap, but yeah, it's like a real thing now.
there's so much overwhelming stuff. Like even when I was first starting out in my career, I worked at a company that focused on Docker and learning Kubernetes. Still, Kubernetes makes me nervous, but there's just all these new different technologies and programs that come out that it's really hard to keep up. And I think the best advice that I ever got is from Tom. Shout out to Tom Will Fix It, who was a Docker captain at one of the first Docker cons, one of the first events I ever went to. And I asked for his advice because I was just starting out in the industry. And I always think about this a lot, which is that everyone always needs beginner content. Because in the nature of my role, I'm creating a lot of content. I work with a lot of students. And this is so true. And I actually was sharing this with PJ, who I think is in the chat now, that UI changes all the time, products change all the time, different features change all the time. So if you're ever feeling, oh my gosh, like nobody needs to hear this blog about how to get started with blank, or like, why am I building this project to get started with XYZ language? Like there's people who are far beyond me. Just remember that everyone had to start from where you're at. And I think it's really easy to forget that when the concepts that we're trying to learn are really difficult and really can mess with your brain.
Yeah, and that's definitely something.
PJ says that.
Oh, and that's something I actually realized once I had like all those mental blocks you create yourself. So like the playing field was set for me in my head. Once I had like that shock in reality, right? I was like, okay, I want to do this. I have all these mental barriers. So how can I start breaking them down, right? So a couple of things that helped me really help me out in that time was always trying to keep myself in check, right? Trying to motivate myself and trying to keep my goals. I had this big goal that I had, but I had to break it down into a little bit more realistic goals that I could achieve with the limitations I had at that time. So we were, at that time, I still wasn't going through the crisis with my family. So we had to open. Another thing I used to do, I even got to be kind of a chef and a cook, and because we had to open a restaurant in front of my university 1 year after I started, because we needed some of other different type of income to stay afloat, right? So we created this awesome restaurant in front of my university called Seven Dips, and the whole concept, the whole problem we solved with it was that during my first year there, I noticed there was not a lot of places where you could eat some good quality food and just go and relax. Most of the places that were near the university at that time had really poor hygiene and were not that adequate to eat. So if you were like me, that I used to live 2 hours away from the university, I had to stay the whole day there and like eat and stuff. But it was not that comfortable. I will miss my home a lot. So when we created the restaurant, we created with a concept which was kind of a mix between Dominican Republic food culture and American culture. So we would have all sorts of food like we will make pasta, we will make waffles in the morning for the students. We would create a ton of desserts. My sister, she loves making desserts. She will create brownies and just make like a little house you could be at while you were spending your day in the university, and with all the stress that brings to you, right? Because you also need to keep in mind. Yeah. Oh, I see you put the Instagram. That's our old Instagram right now. The restaurant is no longer there because I moved back to United States with my family. But yeah, we have some pictures there of the food, and
it sounds like a lot of running a restaurant, just based on what I know from people who've worked in the hospitality industry. It's a lot like community building. Like being a restaurant is being part of the community and being able, it sounds like you really created like a safe, fun space for people. Ugh, I miss restaurants, you guys.
Yeah.
I really miss going to restaurants.
Yeah. And I definitely recommend anyone that has the opportunity to work in some type of work that has to do with customer service and like dealing with people.
I think it should be a requirement for anybody who works in engineering to work in CS for at least At minimum a month, because
Yeah.
I think I learned the most about anything that I've ever learned just answering customer support tickets for 2 years, even though I
Yeah.
wanted to scream sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's why I think like knowing when, especially when you're working on a product, like, I mean, a restaurant's the same way, right? Like it's one of those things where the customer's always right. Like if people
Mhm.
are saying, hey, this part of your
Yeah, and definitely a lot of priority. You have to learn how to put a lot of priority while dealing with a restaurant, as you say, because and more if you kind of break the market and where you at. Because our restaurant was completely a different concept. It was kind of like a franchise in front of a business that would not. Our demand was crazy. Like the first day we
Nice.
opened, the line will be like out the door, and we were totally not prepared for this. We literally opened with like just the necessaries to get by the day because we were not in a good spot at that time, right? And when we see this huge line, like in 20 minutes, everything we had in stock finished. So
Wow.
we literally had to go running and buy new ingredients, tell them to wait. Everything was in paper in that time. At that time, I still did not know much about tech, so that was also another thing I got to like experience. So we had this long process to take orders. We had people will wait like around an hour to get their food, and just to order, they would take like 20 minutes. So as soon as this got worse and worse, because the lines would not go down, I started investigating about software we could use or how could we automate the process we were doing because everything was handwritten. The orders we were sent to the back were also handwritten, so we would have to take the order, place it in our book, right, to keep track of what we sold, and then make a receipt for the kitchen that they were gonna use and probably was gonna get lost, and then we had another receipt to keep track of what was in the back. So that was like three things you had to fill on your own before sending the order. So I found a good point of sale system. I learned how it works, just reading documentation, which also helped me to like realize how important documentation is in our work. Because this software I got and I bought in online, right? But I literally couldn't afford hiring the technicians to install it and come to the country because they were not based in the art. So I had
yeah.
to learn everything from the ground up, implement it, and once we implemented, the change was uh, really big. We will go down from you having to wait an hour to get your food. In less than 50 minutes, we will get your order out and you will leave to your class,
Oh
which was
wow.
the
I
time.
I'm like documentation. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Please, could not agree more. I think the assumption that we put on people, like just even from an accessibility standpoint, that they'll be able to use our software right out of the box is no good. So
Yeah.
yes. Oh my gosh. That's amazing that you were able to cut down the time that much. What do you think? What was it that you were eliminating in that process that you switched to digitally that did that?
Yeah. So we automated basically everything, right? Because before, when you came, I had to take your name and write down what you wanted and calculate the prices manually with my calculator as well.
Oh my
And all
gosh.
of that was manual. So that was only one piece of the problem. Just getting the order in the system and logging everything for our accountability, right? After that, I had to create two more tickets, one for the kitchen so they can prepare the food, and one in the front so I can give it to the customer and also keep track that it's still in the kitchen and I can call for his food and keep track of it. So all of that in the system I could do, and I could do everything integrated. So I had two printers. One gave me the client receipt, and one gave me the kitchen receipt. And I would just take the order, and the system would generate everything I needed. And in less than 1 to 2 minutes, if the client knew already what he wanted to order, he will pay and already be waiting for his order, and everything will be in the kitchen getting ready. So the only
It's
time they
amazing.
had to wait was just the cooking time. And we had to also learn about processes and how to become chefs because when we opened the restaurant, we had no knowledge about that. And
Yeah.
my mom is also an inspiration for me because she had to go to chef classes and get all this knowledge that at the moment she didn't have. and also we chipped in and learned as well. And it's just like it gave me a good perception and has helped me a lot right now. In that everything you have a goal, but it's not like you're always gonna have a happy path to come to it, right? So you're gonna be doing a ton of different positions and jobs that might not be related to where you're gonna end up, but at the end, everything adds up, and everything is of value because going under that contest pressure, having all these customers uh, waiting for the food, hungry, they need to get to class because they only have 15 minutes for break. It teaches you a lot of how to have patience and how to prioritize and how to organize mentally all the process you need to execute to get the job done, right? And keep everyone happy. And if you know there's a shortage of something, hey, let's take this off the menu today and let's just leave it for next week because the products for this week are not working. And that actually happens even in software. If you see you found the bug in an area of your product, is it actually worth it to have the users go to that section of the site, always find get the error message, right? And get like a bad feeling about your product and eventually leaving it. No,
It's
just
so
take yeah, just take
it's
down
so
the
interesting how many parallels there are between, I think similarly, people who maybe don't envision themselves as software engineers early on in life are like, I don't have any experience with anything like this. But what you just explained about that first day opening and getting that huge influx of people, that's like probably a problem that you're trying to solve with SLA around the holidays on a product, right?
Yep,
So it's
exactly.
so interesting to see how you've really been able to use these experiences in your experience as a software engineer. It's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we had all this, I had this really busy life and I was starting my software engineering, right? And that was the main hurdle for me. I had no time to study. I literally got out of my house from 5 a.m. and would get back home at 11 in the night and repeat every day, right? So I will have like 2 to 3 hours of study between my classes and working all day in the restaurant because we couldn't have uh, like the whole fleet of employees you would want to have, right? Because you're starting out. So it this also taught me about how to work between the frame. I mean, between the resources you have, right? So I had to study, and I wanted to be good, but I had to find creative ways of keeping up with the university and with my studies because other students could have 4 or 6 hours of time to study and do projects. I only had two. So a
Yeah.
good thing I also learned was like to ask for help uh, and fail quickly, right? So if I knew that I got something in the morning, a new subject in calculus that I didn't quite understand, I started reaching out to tutors and which were older students in the class that were really good, and I will be like, hey, I actually need help with this. I can pay you like for a tutoring session, and in the night I will get a tutoring session for an hour and really get a hold of the knowledge so I could eventually when I go back to the class I can have it more fresh, right? And don't let the knowledge skip away because you have so many stuff in the head at the same time. But that definitely is when I started noticing, as you said, that community and mentoring people is so important in our field. Like if it
Yeah.
wasn't because of that, I don't think I would have been able to like get ahead as good as I did because something I also started to get take advantage of is I became a event coordinator in a technology event coordinator in my university. At first for a kind of selfish reason because I knew there was a lot of communities in my country that had great professionals, people with a lot of knowledge, and something that characterize really professionals that have a lot of knowledge is that they're most of the time willing to share their knowledge with you if you're honestly trying to learn and you're just curious about something they love doing. They will dedicate for you an hour, half an hour, completely free of cost, and just to get you to help you get started. Because as you said, we all started from nothing. Like when I started my university, I knew nothing. I didn't even
Same.
know what like a programming language was. I only knew the HTML tags
I
and stuff.
started and ended university knowing nothing about software engineering. So you're
Yeah.
both ahead of me.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely that's now you can see where I'm at now, and you can see all of this key pieces I've been talking about, how everything gets connected. And at the moment when you're living it, you don't really get how everything is connected, right?
It's so
But
true.
now that I'm a software engineer, I migrated to the US. One of the mental barriers I had was that, okay, I want to be a software engineer. I want to move back to US and be with all the rest of my family that was here, like my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. But doing engineering here for me in my mind was like, oh my god, how am I gonna even get considered if I'm coming from a Hispanic country? They probably don't even know my university. And for me, everybody that was in the states studying engineering was like the geniuses again, right? But during my school and all those experiences with the community and learning how to be a speaker, how to give talks, how to have people come to the university and just share their knowledge, I started breaking all those walls and realizing that it's actually not as I thought. Everybody is just trying to figure out how to get to the goals and how to make life work. So what maybe worked for me, maybe is not gonna work exactly 100% for you, but you shouldn't feel like you're alone in the fight, right?
Yeah.
You should know that everybody, even right now, I'm a software engineer. I'm working as a senior Xamarin mobile developer. Every day I learn something new, and I get excited when I learn something new because I know that, like, for example, last week Brandon was talking about the new stuff we got in C Sharp 9, which we got a
That's
bunch
right.
of cool syntaxes and goodies for us. And when he talked to me about records, I was like, wait, but that's gonna save me so much time. Oh my god, that's so awesome. And once he explained it for me at first, I was like, wait, but how is that actually working? And do I need to change my whole class and everything? But once he explained it, I was like, wait, this is the same thing and I can use it right now. And that's basically what motivated me, keeps motivate me to keep learning, keep getting better, and step by like little by little, you get to where you want to go. Because
Yeah.
when you
Small
just
incremental
yeah,
changes.
yeah, when you give a talk and you go to an event and you see someone that is kind of lost in terms of trying to ask you about a certain topic they're having trouble with, and when you explain to them how it works and they get it, and you see like their expression change, like you get such a good feeling inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a community events, mentoring is definitely one of the key takeaway I want people to have from this session is that don't be afraid to reach out, keep failing, don't be afraid of like getting stuff wrong. Nobody gets it right at the first time. I definitely did not. Everything is eventually gonna work out. We just need to keep pushing forward and keep meeting awesome people like you, Chloe, Brandon, and just
Well, I think you've
Hey,
grow your network.
provided so much value to our viewers today and everybody who's going to watch this after the live stream. PJ says here, that's me, always lost. LOL. I relate, PJ. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm so excited for more people to hear this story because I think we don't talk enough about how uncomfortable it can feel to get started in this industry. And I think I really appreciate your honesty today because it was all very relatable. I know PJ's definitely feeling the vibes here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we only have a couple seconds left, but I do want to plug Luis's.
Yes.
He runs the .NET Dominicana meetup, and so we've had nothing but amazing comments rolling in this whole time, Luis. Everybody's incredibly impressed by your story, and everybody's feeling inspired. And so if you are one of those people feeling inspired, join Luis at the .NET Dominicana meetup. It's meetup.com/.NET Dom. And I've been there. I've helped with the live streams, or been a guest on the live streams rather, and encourage everybody else to join us. So we only have 10 seconds left. Luis, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we can have you back on the show to learn more of your wisdom and more about your story again in the future. But
I'll be glad to be here. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for coming and looking at the stream.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Same time, same channel.